Wow, someone's trying to be edgy.
The Brooklyn Bridge is good for two things: getting people from one side to the other and giving pigeons a place to perch and rest their tired little wings. People can feel safe crossing this bridge because it was designed to support lots of traffic going back and forth every day. But what if it hadn't been designed with human beings and their vehicles in mind? What if the Brooklyn Bridge had been constructed as a big perch for pigeons, perhaps to keep them off the buildings of Manhattan? In that case, wouldn't it be utterly foolish to drive your car across it? Does it make sense to trust something with a task that goes vastly beyond what it was meant to do?
We do this all the time. Right now, you're using the web to deliver high-definition video, something that wasn't anywhere close to what it was invented to do in 1991. Bumble wrap is great for packing things, but that's not what it was designed for. It was invented in 1957 as a 3D wallpaper. Viagra was originally blood pressure medicine. Frisbees were originally pie tins. WD-40 was originally made for use in nuclear missiles. Corkscrews were originally gun worms, and they were used to remove jammed bullets from gun barrels. People make very reliable long-range Wi-Fi antennae out of Pringles cans. And how many times have you seen duct tape used reliably on something other than ducts? Or masking tape for something other than masking off areas you don't want painted? Have you not even paid attention to the world around you?
This is the basic idea behind the argument from reason, which is mainly an argument against naturalism. Naturalism is the claim that the natural world is all that exists.
Wrong way around. It's the idea that everything that exists can be described as nature. If people had seen radio waves in use 200 years ago, they could only have described it in supernatural terms. But the discovery of radio waves meant that we just extended our idea of what's natural to encompass wireless electromagnetic signals.
No God, no angels, no demons, just matter, energy, and natural forces.
It's not the idea that there is no God, it's that there's no reason to believe that God exists until you demonstrate he exists. As usual, fundy apologists want to find a way to skip over that part. If God exists, then he has an effect on the natural world. If he has an effect on the natural world, then he can be studied naturalistically. And even if he ultimately is found to be outside the universe as we know it, then, as with the radio waves, we'll just expand our view of nature to encompass it.
Human beings have the ability to reason. We're using it right now. We wouldn't have discussions like this if we thought that our cognitive faculties, the processes that produce our beliefs, were unreliable. But naturalists have a problem here because they can only explain things by appealing to natural objects, natural events, natural causes.
No, we explain things by developing hypotheses. We then design a test such that if the result of the test is one way, the hypothesis is confirmed. If it goes the other way, the hypothesis is falsified. You can never 100% confirm or falsify a hypothesis, but if numerous different tests point towards a hypothesis being true or false, it's reasonable to make that conclusion. Why am I not surprised that fundies don't understand how this works?
Think about this for a moment. You have beliefs. Ultimately, according to naturalism, your beliefs must be the result of physical processes in your brain, governed by laws of nature, not by commitment to truth. So what really seems like careful reasoning to you is actually straightforward, mechanical, mindless cause and effect. A fancy array of falling dominoes.
Well, you really have no clue how this works, do you? No, it's not just falling dominoes. Learn about the concept of emergence, where you get complex processes, including the ability to reason, as a result of the recursive application of simpler processes. But none of you have the mental capacity to deal with that, so you have to stick this God concept in there, whereas the rest of us are living in the 21st century. There is all the difference in the world between a non-rational process like evolution and an irrational process like religion.
Illusions aside, then, you arrive at your beliefs via a process that has absolutely nothing to do with whether those beliefs are true or false. Chemicals couldn't conceivably care less.
We have methods of examining whether they're true or false, and those methods have been developed and honed over a period of centuries. Whereas our brains haven't actually evolved much in tens of thousands of years, yet we understand much more and can reason much better than people could thousands of years ago. At least those of us who have bothered to study up on these methods. If what you were saying were true, we wouldn't have any more ability to reason than people in the Upper Paleolithic. Since that clearly isn't true, your hypothesis is falsified. See how that works?
So, if naturalism is true, what sense does it make to trust our reasoning ability or our beliefs or even our belief in naturalism? Not a bunch.
Because it works! We can drive a car! We can fly in an airplane! We wiped out smallpox, put a man on the moon, and put a robot on a comet! All using the methods of rationality. And all within a couple of centuries of its development. Your stupid religion has existed since the Bronze Age. How come it was never able to do anything like that? Why did it keep giving us things like holy wars and witch hunts and genocides?
Human beings obtained the ability to reason through the creative powers of evolution, natural selection acting on random mutation.
Oh geez, he's a creationist, isn't he?
Obviously, the random mutation part isn't going to fill us with a tremendous degree of confidence, so the question is whether we can count on our good friend, natural selection, to sift through all the intellectually deficient mutant traits, leaving us with a reliable belief-forming mutant trait.
We not only know that it happened, we have a pretty good idea why. About 75,000 years ago, the Toba supervolcano erupted and caused 1,000 years of global cooling. At that time, the human population collapsed to less than 10,000 breeding pairs. The evidence for this is still in our genome today. In order to survive this cooler weather, which their ancestors hadn't adapted to, they needed to figure out ways to survive. Any tribe that was a little bit more clever and could be a little bit more creative in coming up with survival methods had a survival advantage over other tribes. And remember, evolution works on populations, not individuals. The human beings who came out on the other end of this episode were every bit as intelligent, at least potentially, as we are today. We just have a greater understanding than they did, and certain other advantages like better childhood nutrition.
Here you might want to pull out your Biology 101 textbooks.
Which you've never read.
Does natural selection favor philosophical insight?
An argument from ridicule. Wonderful.
Of course not. Natural selection favors traits that help organisms survive and reproduce.
Can you really look around at the world today and tell us that our ability to reason and invent and discover hasn't helped us survive?
There's a massive difference between, on the one hand, beliefs that help us find food or a partner, and on the other hand, beliefs about ultimate reality.
There really aren't. Because they're all about discovering the reality in which we live. It enabled our ancestors to survive a global volcanic winter, and it enabled us to build civilization as we know it. What reason do you have to believe that these basic problem-solving abilities allowed us to do one, but not the other?
When it comes to survival and reproduction, false beliefs can often be just as effective as true beliefs. If you believe that jumping off this bridge will kill you, and I'm convinced that I'm a pigeon who can't fly because my wings have been cursed by the flying spaghetti monster, we both avoid the edge and we both survive.
But how would that give you more of a survival advantage? Okay, you found one scenario in which we're both on equal footing. But in your case, you're right only by blind luck. Whereas I'd be right because of reliable methods of rationality that work in every scenario. As soon as we run into a scenario where your luck has run out, you're dead. But the rationalist has a much better chance of surviving.
Here's the rub. When theists and naturalists argue about the world or morality or God, we enter the argument as if we're on some sort of intellectual neutral ground.
We really don't. We have the methods that invented the internet. You have methods that created the Dark Ages.
If naturalism is true, the causes of our reasoning ability are particles in motion, random mutation, and a selection process that favors passing on genetic information, not truth.
All you have here is argument from incredulity. You're just trying to express it in a way where it doesn't appear to make sense. If you're appealing to reason, how come you have to commit so many fallacies?
Why in the name of common sense would we rely on a mutant physical ability?
Appeal to common sense fallacy.
There is an alternative, however. Christians believe we are created in the image of God with the ability to learn about everything up to and including our Creator. Does this give us a basis for trusting our reasoning ability? Absolutely.
So your entire basis for trusting your reasoning ability is an idea that someone just made up without any basis, that we were created by this guy called God who gave us this ability somehow but didn't think that cockroaches could use it. Man, God must hate cockroaches.
Our cognitive faculties aren't simply the product of natural selection acting on random mutation, and they serve a greater purpose than finding food.
Prove it.
We can continue arguing about the existence of God all day long then, but a little reflection shows that in arguing about anything, we've already come down on the side of theism.
Alternate hypothesis. We have our reasoning ability because the Flebnak people of Plocknark 3 made a genetic infusion ray capable of rearranging neurons into a biological computer, and an accident at their lab shot the beam at Earth. There is precisely as much data supporting my hypothesis as there is yours.
Of course, you naturalists are free to suppress the truth. You can continue pretending that your worldview allows things like logical laws or objective moral values or reliable cognitive faculties.
And you can keep ignoring the truth about the Flebnaks. See, I can proselytize just as well as you can. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, why not hit like and subscribe? And to make sure I can keep producing content, support this channel by becoming a patron. And check out all the other great content here, like this video selected especially for you.